Help you, baby.
What's your name?
Write your name.
I'm Sally. What's your name?
So she's postpartum, hiatal hernia, gastric reflux. 5 years she's on antacids. Any other meds?
No. She's just been really tired, super irritable, more and more anxious, and then paranoid. I was scared that she might harm herself or the baby. Have you seen anything like it?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I have.
He's supposed to be very good. He'll be right back.
It's okay. What is that? Is that a tranquilizer?
Vitamin B12.
What?
Your wife is megaloblastic. That means she has enlarged red blood cells. She's like a flower that needs rain. Not a sprinkle, but a good soak. That's what we'll give her.
Dr. Kumar,
Yeah.
at my EMT physical, they said I'm megaloblastic. A little.
Really? Do you eat meat?
Yes.
Did your doctor do any testing?
He said to eat more vegetables, said it wasn't a big deal.
There's not a speck of vitamin B12 in a vegetable. You only find it in animal products. If you eat meat and you are B12 deficient, that means you aren't absorbing it from food. That is a big deal.
I was thinking about getting a Schilling test.
Yeah, I'm thinking that too.
I don't like the sound of that cough.
And a sore throat, and I'm so tired.
Well, that's what happens when you have a full-time job and a nursing degree to study for. Everything okay at work?
Yeah. In fact, I met this really smart doctor today. Says I might be vitamin B12 deficient.
You're kidding. Huh. Your grandfather had that.
Really? Now you tell me?
Yeah, they thought it was leukemia until they checked his bone marrow. Pernicious anemia, meaning deadly. Shot saved his life.
Hey, Miss EMT.
Hi, Dr. Kumar. My name is Sally.
I know you're Sally. I'm Praveen. So, I have some news for you. Your Schilling results and all your blood work came back.
And?
And you are officially the youngest person with autoimmune pernicious anemia I've ever met. I'm guessing in your case it must be genetic.
My father just told me his dad had it.
Not surprised. Fortunately, treatment is easy. Hop in. You are going to feel so much better in no time at all. Series of shots to get your levels up, and once a month for the rest of your life. You can inject yourself if you think you can manage it.
Oh, I can manage it. I'm in nursing school.
Would you like to do the honors?
I'd rather you did just this once.
Hey, Sally, toss me my bag.
I didn't know I felt that bad until I started feeling this good. My brain fog is lifting. I thought I had an attention disorder, or ADD. We're stressed since my mom died.
Yeah, well-nourished brain can handle life events. You're lucky, Sally. Some people never get the macrocytosis. They just get irritable, tired, problems with memory, nerve damage. But since they don't have the telltale red cell anemia, their doctors never figure it out.
But you did.
Oh, it's because I come from a country where it's quite common. Which reminds me, got a phone call yesterday. Kind of interesting. Got an offer.
Oh, what kind of offer?
Teaching and research job at Oxford.
England. Wow. What are you gonna do?
Told them I would think about it.
So you might not take it?
I just didn't want to sound eager. Of course I'll take it. It's Oxford. I've heard some different things about England, but I think it could be a good place for me. Need a change. Do some good work over there.
What's wrong, sweetie?
Nothing.
The B12 doctor?
Stupid. We never even had a date. How can you miss someone you never even went out with?
It happens.
Talk about it in nursing school. Don't get involved with a doctor. Now I know why.
Sally Pacholok.
I feel like there's something crawling under my skin, maybe laying eggs and hatching.
How long have you had the sensation?
A couple of months, I guess. I remember it was right after I got my wisdom teeth pulled.
A B12 test? Why?
You heard her. She just had her teeth pulled with nitrous oxide.
So?
So if you're low in B12, nitrous oxide inactivates it, causing psychiatric distress and nerve damage.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
So will you order the testing?
I don't know. Nobody orders a B12 test for an ER patient.
Doesn't mean we shouldn't be testing. If her B12 is low, it causes pins and needles. It's just like MS.
Come on, we're talking about a vitamin, for God's sakes.
Yes, a primordial molecule we can't live without.
Really? Tell that to the Eskimos.
Excuse me?
They hardly eat any vegetables at all, and they seem to be doing fine. But I'll think about it.
Asshole. It's just so frustrating. These doctors think because it's just a vitamin, it's not important. And they know nothing about it. I had this one doctor today who thinks you get your B12 from vegetables.
Well, can't you bring him up to speed?
How?
Can't you write up a list of symptoms they may not remember from medical school? A sort of B12 cheat sheet?
As if they'd read it.
Well, you'll never know unless you try.
Balance and gait problems, numbness, memory issues, gastrointestinal problems, psychiatric disorders from irritability to depression to psychosis? Really?
Anxiety, depression, psychosis, neuropathy, spastic weakness. Remember, it's a neuropsych disorder, not just a blood disorder. Neurological changes way precede blood changes. You don't have to be anemic or macrocytic, but it even used to be called megaloblastic madness after the anemia. People still go mad. It's a worldwide problem common in Europe, India.
India? Have you ever been to India, Miss Pacholok?
No.
I have. It's a third world country. We're a prosperous, well-fed society. There isn't much B12 deficiency here. So, what do you want me to do?
Just give me permission to give our doctors this list of signs and symptoms, and maybe I could do a little talk about why B12 is so important. This was the focus of all my research papers in nursing school.
A nurse does not give medical advice to a doctor. It works the other way around. The answer is no. I know we've had our issues in the past, but I thought we put those behind us.
Well, you thought wrong. You can't just put bad medical practice behind us when it's still going on in this hospital every single day. And you can't say you weren't warned.
In a case that's generating a certain amount of esoteric controversy, the Food and Drug Administration is considering fortifying all wheat products with folic acid, synthetic folate, vitamin B9. I'm joined now by Dr. Praveen Kumar, a leading vitamin B12 researcher who thinks adding vitamin B9 to our food supply is a big mistake. Dr. Kumar, what's wrong with the measure the Centers for Disease Control is urging the FDA to take?
This could have catastrophic consequences for millions of individuals.
This sounds to me like a case of dueling researchers fighting over which vitamin is more important, B9 or B12.
They're both important. The B vitamins have to work together in synergy. We know from research way back in the 1940s that folic acid-only therapy should never be administered to anyone who is low in B12. My fear is that thousands of Americans, if not millions, could be walking around with their B12 levels sinking lower and lower, slowly killing them with degenerative diseases.
And this will happen because?
Because doctors will look at the patient's red blood cells and they will look normal. Why? Because of the pharmacologically active folic acid they don't realize they've been eating.
Wait. You're saying that folic acid is like a pharmaceutical?
It's a powerful synthetic B vitamin. And doctors have been taught to look for macrocytic, meaning big red blood cells, as an indicator of low B12. But folic acid corrects this. We call it masking.
Well, why don't we just add the B12 to the flour while we're at it?
Look, I don't advocate adding any vitamin to the food supply willy-nilly. I think it is unethical because no one can opt out of a universal intervention, whether it's good for them or not. If and when it goes through, we will need a massive B12 awareness campaign to educate all physicians and patients alike.
Thank you, Dr. Kumar.
Thank you.
Now, Sally, I'm sure you're aware that this hospital and a number of others are facing substantial legal challenges,
You mean lawsuits?
which we feel are entirely without merit.
Wouldn't that be up to a jury to decide?
Like his stomach is paralyzed or something. He says that he wants to eat, and then he just
Sick all the goddamn time. Fatigue, nausea, moodiness, clumsiness, rage. No wonder nobody likes him. What's not wrong with him?
I know you think it's all in his head.
It's not just me who thinks that.
It's a cluster of symptoms we call sensory integration disorder.
Asperger's syndrome.
I see all the hallmarks of ADHD.
Frequent strep, irritable bowel, mood disorders, they all go together.
Digestive problems can be psychological in nature.
Well, since he's having trouble getting along with people at school, I think it's stress-related.
He has actual numb spots. How can that just be stress-related?
Peter, can you tell us exactly what happened?
I was at school and I couldn't breathe, so I called my mom to come get me. And I was too weak to walk.
It's my fault. He's been so tired lately. He's been in bed almost all the time, but his dad thought that he was faking it to skip, so I sent him to school anyway. Why is he so weak?
Will you excuse us for a minute, please? Okay. Let's order an MRI with a psych consult. Family counseling is a good idea. Kid obviously has some sort of learned dependence on his mother.
And B12 testing?
B12, why?
Because B12 deficiency is a demyelinating disorder and the boy has trouble walking. B12 deficiency causes weakness and the exact stomach problems and psychiatric symptoms the boy has.
Oh, I get it. Huh? You must be Sally B12. Oh, they warned me about you my first day on the job.
I'm sure they have.
Okay, so
But-
Sally, let me be clear. The patient has a history of truancy. The patient also has a history of seeing a brand new doctor every other week. He wants attention. It's called Munchausen syndrome. Hello?
The patient has a history of infection, stomach problems, and diarrhea. Food-bound malabsorption. Hello.
God, you're annoying. Well, Nurse Pacholok, as the boy's doctor, I'm ordering an MRI to rule out multiple sclerosis, but also to cover my ass. But I'm betting on psych all the way. One thing that I learned while I was in medical school is that when you hear hoofbeats, think horses, not zebras.
Thank you, Dr. Bennett. Horses, not zebras. You would know a horse from a sack of hammers. 'The radiologist needs to be specifically looking for subacute combined degeneration of the spinal cord. Okay? I wrote it down.
The entire week of our honeymoon, it rained night and day. We hardly went out. But you know what?
What?
That was all right. We got to know each other really well.
I bet you did.
Your mom was beautiful, just like you.
I miss her.
Yeah, me too.
Hello? Praveen? Of course I remember you. He's in town. Sure. You haven't changed at all.
I've changed a lot. I know so much more about what I want and what's really important to me.
Professionally?
Yeah, and elsewhere as well.
I thought your argument against folic acid-only fortification was really good. My dad and I watched you on TV.
Not good enough. It's only been a few years and we're already seeing what may be unhappy consequences.
Such as?
Initially, we saw an uptick in colon cancer, but also physicians not knowing they need to check for B12 directly and not rely on a blood count.
Surely true at our hospital.
Just last week, I was called in to see an elderly patient being discharged after a fall. She had every sign and symptom of B12 deficiency. She'd become wheelchair-bound, demented, psychotic, incontinent. Her homocysteine was sky-high, and she had unexplained anemia that wasn't macrocytic. She even had a beefy red tongue. These are the exact things we need to be looking for. And the scary thing is, it wasn't recognized by our own neurology team, an Ivy League teaching hospital. And we're finding out that some people just may not metabolize all the synthetic folic acid they've been getting, especially when they're low in B12. We're seeing people with opposite extremes, high unmetabolized folic acid and low B12.
Interesting.
Interesting is right. With people's levels so out of balance, that could pose a substantial health risk.
But we don't yet know exactly how substantial. You must be Sally B12. I've heard all about you. I'm Charles.
Nice to meet you.
Charles is a lawyer. I'm getting him up to speed on the legal ramifications of not checking symptomatic patients for B12 deficiency. It's the only way I can get him interested in our obsession.
Praveen, you know that's not true. I'm interested in everything about you, including your success stories, like Sally here. Should I get us a table? I'm starved.
So how did it go?
Fine. Fine. I got to see him. He's doing really important stuff.
That's it?
More or less. I'll fill you in tomorrow. I'm just a little tipsy right now.
Let me guess. Married?
No.
Engaged?
No, it's not important. Just a little fantasy shattered.
I'm sorry, sweetie, but there's lots of men out there. It's suburban Detroit.
Right. Detroit. Think I'll go to bed and pull my hair out.
Autism? Really?
ABC. Autism B12 connection.
B12 deficiency is rare in America, and it's rare in that age group.
And you're saying that based on what? Tired old assumptions? Assumptions that have no place in medicine? We need to toss out groupthink.
Groupthink.
These days, lots of women could enter pregnancy with low B12 and not know it.
But they get lots of folic acid, and neurotube defects are down.
Only by about a third, and other disorders are on the rise. Folic acid masks B12 deficiency, and you need both B12 and folate to prevent birth defects. It's called one-carbon metabolism. Do you know that 2 toxins build up in your body when you don't have enough B12? Methylmalonic acid and homocysteine.
But who talks like this?
We forgot the B12. It's the missing B12, stupid.
You just didn't call me stupid, did you?
Read the research. It isn't even controversial that a baby's brain can grow in a healthy way when there isn't enough B12 and folate. And it's inexcusable not to check for B12. Ta-da! New standard of care. I finally got the administrator to agree on B12 testing. If the patient is symptomatic and the attending physician agrees, that's you guys. So here's a list of signs and symptoms to be on the lookout for. So far, about 20% tested are positive. And if we used a more reasonable reference range, about a third of the patient tested have B12 deficiency.
Wow. You're so cute when you're serious.
Look, this is a no-brainer, but we need to up the sample size before I report back on how we officially need to change the standard of care. So, can I count the 2 of you in to help out?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. Can I just say, this is the emergency department? I don't have time for nutrition advice.
Panic attack. My heart is pounding.
Sometimes my hands hurt, and they go weak and numb.
I can't remember everything. I feel like I'm always in a fog.
I couldn't feel the shower temperature on my skin. And I'm so unsteady. I'm afraid I'll fall over.
Don't save me. I want to drink myself to death.
Well, my mom's memory has been getting worse.
I'm anxious all the time. Like it's doomsday. I need sleep. Can't you just give me a sedative?
Mrs. Kaplan? I'm Dr. Faber. Your son has a sore throat?
Yeah, he doesn't seem right to me.
How so?
He doesn't want to eat, doesn't do much of anything.
Well, let's have a look. Hey there, little fella. You open up for me?
He might not like that.
The doctor has to examine his throat.
You mind?
Help yourself.
I wanted to talk to you about that study you're running.
Not a study per se, a standard of care change. I got permission from the
Whatever.
administrator.
The point is, I think I've got another case for you.
Who?
This woman came in this morning. She's in her 20s. She's vegetarian. She's pale, listless, etc. She's not here for herself. She's here for her kid. He's like a year old. He's got a sore throat, whatever. But I take one look at the mom, and I think, I gotta tell Sally about this one. So here I am.
Here you are. So what did you do?
Nothing. What was I supposed to do?
Well, she's a vegetarian. Check her B12, homocysteine, methylmalonic acid. Ask if she's been taking a supplement.
Mom's not my patient. The kid is.
So did you order testing for him?
Why would I do that? He's got a sore throat. I put him on antibiotics.
Did you say if he had trouble feeding, trouble swallowing?
Yeah, I think.
Is she breastfeeding him?
I didn't ask. Why would that be important?
Because if she's B12 deficient and the child is getting his nutrition from her breast milk, then he's not gonna have enough B12. And trouble swallowing is a primary symptom when you're really deficient. These swallowing nerves stop working. Also, anytime there are lesions in the mucous membrane of the digestive tract, cells that rapidly turn over, IBS, Crohn's, celiac, we should do B12 testing. Are they still here now?
I discharged him about an hour ago.
Shoot, we could have had both of them tested.
My bad. Next one I see, you'll be the first to know. And now, not to change the subject, but I was wondering if you'd like to go out for a drink sometime.
Like a date?
Call it whatever you want. I know this great little place over on 4th Street. You could bring me up to date on the latest and greatest in B12 deficiency while I ply you with Chardonnay.
Thanks for the offer. Nothing personal, but you're not really my type.
Oh. What's your type?
Anyone who's not a doctor.
John Williams?
Right here.
Mr. Williams?
How you doing?
Broken ankle?
I'm hoping it's just sprain.
Let's find out. I'll be right back.
Thank you.
Ma'am,
Yes.
you were in here about a week ago.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Faber, kind of good looking.
Yeah.
Your last name?
Kaplan.
Who's Scott Kaplan? Oh. Dr. Brandt. Dr. Faber on the floor? Room 14?
I'd like you to come with me.
The supplements I take are iron and folic acid, like my doctor told me. What are you going to test for?
Sally!
What's going on?
So, you don't deny what's in Joe's report?
No.
You tried to test someone who wasn't even a patient?
Yes, but both mother and son were symptomatic and high risk. She's a longtime vegetarian. I talked to Dr. Faber and I got consent to draw blood from both of them. Then I was stopped by Dr. Brand.
But this Kaplan wasn't Dr. Faber's patient. He was Dr. Brandt's.
That's true, but
Look, I am not interested in excuses. I assure you, there will be consequences.
I don't doubt that for a moment.
The Kaplan case?
I doubt they can prove wrongful death. Dr. Brandt followed procedures to the letter, so did the rest of our hospital staff.
They gave the boy a frenectomy 2 weeks before he died.
The child was having difficulty swallowing, so they cut that little thing under his tongue in order to free it up.
When what he needed was B12 therapy. Simple B12 shots. The boy was severely deficient. He died of deficiency, just as the autopsy showed. You think it's the mother's fault because she breastfed him? We are supposed to know better.
I take it Kaplan's lawyers have been in touch with you regarding testifying?
Yes, they have.
I walk with my girlfriend every week. Last couple of times I felt all woozy. Everything was spinning. She dropped me off here because I was so dizzy.
Are you still dizzy now?
Yes, a bit. And my ears started ringing.
Have you told your doctor about all this? The unsteadiness and tinnitus?
Oh, yes. Last week I saw a neurologist because I have this tremor in my arm. They call it essential tremor. Gave me a drug. Do you think the drug made me dizzy?
That's a possibility. Any other health concerns, Mrs. Stewart?
Oh, you betcha. I have Hashimoto's, thyroiditis. And just between us girls, I keep having bad pap smears. Cell changes.
Mrs. Stewart, all these things could mean you have vitamin B12 deficiency. I think you should get tested and I'll see if the doctor agrees.
I'm not in any hurry. I'm waiting for my son to pick me up.
Great.
He'll be here any minute. Will he be able to find me?
I'll make sure that he does.
His name is Jeff. He's not married. I don't know why he's not married. He's smart, he's handsome. Never found the right gal, I guess. I notice you're not wearing a ring. Ever found the right guy?
Not so far.
I was married when I was 20. I don't know why you modern people wait so long.
Well, I take care of my dad, I teach yoga to seniors, and I just got permission to do this sort of a project, vitamin B12 project, to improve the standard of care around here. So I've been pretty busy.
No one should ever be too busy for love.
Are you talking about me?
You're here. This is Sally Pacholok. She's been taking very good care of me.
Hi.
This is my son, Jeff.
So what's the deal? Can I take you home?
The ER attending me wants to run some additional tests on your mom.
Hey.
I may be B12 deficient.
Well, what does that have to do with anything?
Well, your mom shows signs and symptoms of
What
B12
symptoms?
deficiency. Her arm tremor, her fatigue, her risk factor of autoimmune Hashimoto's, and her cervical dysplasia.
You're talking about my mother's pap smears?
Yes.
But that's ridiculous.
No, it's good medical practice is what it is.
Oh, okay, enough. I'd like to talk to her doctor now.
Jeffrey?
I'm sorry, but I'm just trying to get to the bottom of this. I'm trying to figure out what's going on here.
What's going on here is this is a hospital, and we're trying to help your mother and other people like her to get better.
By checking their vitamin levels in the ER? You gotta be kidding me.
She's not kidding. Tell him about your study.
Not a study. I'm just trying to make sure we test patients who have signs and symptoms of B12 deficiency, like we should. No one's been testing symptomatic patients, and now we are, like we should.
But why? Practically no one gets macrocytic anemia anymore, like ever.
That's late stage. Late stage, when permanent damage has already been done. What do you know about macrocytic anemia?
Oh, didn't I tell you? Jeffrey's an ER doctor down at County.
Hey, look at you.
Yeah, working a lot better.
Ever since he started the shots, and that's why we're here now.
Dr. Bennett prescribed them.
Thanks to you, Peter had more testing done. You know, Pete thinks you should put everything you know on the internet or the web.
That's the same thing, Mom. I was telling my mom that you should write a blog.
I'm sorry, I don't know a thing about blogs or...
Don't worry, Peter is a computer genius. He'll help you with everything.
We could just start with a web page.
What are you doing over there?
Going on the internet.
What for?
Because I can find so much stuff. Published cases on people who got injured by B12 deficiency. It's like having a medical library right at your fingertips.
A real library is quieter.
Oh, hey, just the person I'm looking for.
Stuart!
Jeff, look, I am really sorry about the other day. I was way out of line, and I came to apologize.
A doctor apologizing. What's wrong with this picture?
Okay, I get it. We're a bunch of know-it-alls, and we're more wrong than we'd like to admit. So I'm here to say that I was wrong. You were right about my mother.
You got her tested?
Yes, her B12 level was on the low side, 185.
That's not on the low side. That's deficient.
And she wasn't macrocytic or anemic.
And now practically no one ever gets macrocytic anemia anymore, like ever. Can you say doctors should have been taught years ago not to rely on macrocytosis? Duh.
I could, but I'd rather buy you a cup of coffee and pick your brain.
About what?
B12. We spent a total of maybe half a lecture on it in med school, and I like learning new things. My mom mentioned you've written something. I could take a look at it until you get a break. I had no idea to be checking for this.
We just don't know how widespread it is. I mean, look around you. I bet half of these people are on antidepressants. We know B12 deficiency can be the cause of depression, but do we check depressed patients for B12 deficiency? No, we do not, but we should. Oh, look, surprise. A 2-page color ad for an antidepressant that costs more than $200 a month. Ka-ching. If Pharmaceutical companies aren't complaining.
Well, insurance companies cover ka-ching drugs. Doctors prescribe them.
Yeah, guess what? These ka-ching drugs are going to bankrupt America. Healthcare should be about what's healthy.
Well, I'd like to print more of your cards and pass them around over at County, if that's okay.
Sure, the more people know, the better.
And maybe we could do a study. At the very least, I could do tests on my own patients.
Better be careful. You're ordering tests our doctors never order. Somebody will notice and you'll be called into the principal's office.
I think I can handle it. Look, I know this is out of left field, but I'd like to see you again, outside a hospital setting.
Sure, that'd be nice.
What was... That's... Like, you... That's wrong!
Hey, you're awake. How are you feeling?
Oh, I feel like shit. Where am I?
You're at the ER, Mr. Bowman.
What the hell happened to me?
You fell, you don't remember?
No. Last thing I remember, I was playing bridge.
Is this the first time you've fallen? Any numbness in your legs?
Yeah, my legs, my feet. I fell a couple of weeks ago in the garden into a big bunch of nasturtiums. I've been having trouble keeping my balance.
Any digestive problems?
Oh, God, yes. Heartburn. I take the meds.
Had any surgery lately?
Yeah, about 6 months ago. Colon problems. Why?
Thank you, nurse. I'll take it from here. So, how are you doing? Not a word.
But he has balance problems and reflux, and he had colon surgery. Classic signs and symptoms.
You know what's a classic sign and symptoms, Miss Pacholok? Age. Mr. Bowman's getting older. Older people get dizzy, weak, and fall down all the time.
Hi, I'm Jeff Stewart, and you must be Andy.
And you must be special. Sally doesn't go out with doctors as a rule. She'll be down in a minute. Have her home by 9:15.
So guess what?
What?
I tested a woman with postpartum depression today, and she turned out to be B12 deficient. Bingo. I treated her in the ER, and I called her doctors.
Jeff, that's great. You probably saved a whole family from destruction.
Yeah, I gotta say, you know your stuff.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, besides depression, we're seeing a lot more dementia.
B12 related?
Some of it definitely is. I've seen it with my own eyes. No one's been checking for it. Now, most doctors forget the effect it has on the brain. Low B12 causes loss of cognition and brain damage.
Wow.
Brain shrinkage.
You carry around a brain scan on a date?
Jeez.
Look at that.
It's not a very datey thing to do, is it?
Wow.
I'm sorry. I do get wound up. It's just that we can't wait for anemia or enlarged red blood cells. That may never happen, and no one's telling doctors this.
Don't apologize. I think it's great. In fact, I'm practically spellbound.
Yeah, right.
No, seriously.
Well, is spellbound the same as having your eyes glazed over?
Oh no, they're pretty different. Spellbound is And glazed is.
I had a good time.
I did too. And I'd like to do it again if your dad doesn't banish me for missing his deadline.
I bet I can get him to forgive you. I'll just have to convince him you're not a typical doctor.
Oh.
Maybe you should come by for dinner sometime so he can check you out.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Friday?
Friday sounds good. Look, I'm dying to kiss you right now, but I don't want to freak you out.
You won't freak me out.
No?
No.
Sure.
Sure.
I was the same old girl as any past night. In my same old world.
Bye.
Good night.
The air got thin, the table started to spin the second you walked in. Last night.
Sally, the administrator wants to see you.
Sally, I've just had too many complaints.
Complaints about what? And from whom?
About your B12 obsession. I've heard it from doctors and nurses, as Joe here will tell you. But I've come up with a compromise.
Compromise? What are you talking about? What is this?
It's a document you're going to have to sign if you want to keep working here.
I'm not allowed to mention B12 deficiency? In a hospital? You must be joking.
No. It orders you to cease and desist talking about vitamin B12. And you may not ask a doctor to order a B12 test. And you may not discuss B12 or B12 deficiency with any patient ever.
A gag order? About a medical diagnosis? You can't do this.
Oh, yes, he can.
This is bullshit. I'm not doing human research. I've got permission on writing to propose a standard of care change. I'll take this to my union.
I've already talked to the union and the nursing director, and they're completely on board with this. You can take it elsewhere, like your doctor boyfriend.
Ms. Pacholok, this is for your own good. People are beginning to think you're a crank. Look, I know you're a great nurse, and I don't want to lose you. But you're gonna have to sign here. Oh, and about that so-called permission in writing which you say you have, we want it back as soon as possible.
I have my copy. I'm not required to keep your files. Find your own damn copy. They're such idiots. 10 minutes after they gagged me, I examined a baby girl. Her eyes were rolling all over the place. Her body was floppy, no body tone at all, and she'd been having seizures. They've been to neurologists. They gave her all kinds of meds. Nothing worked. The mother is freaking out, and the doctor just shrugs his shoulders, orders a different kind of med and an EEG. And I have to just stand there biting my tongue because some idiots are more concerned about covering their asses than providing good medical care. You know, we tested 48 patients before they gagged me. 8 of them were deficient, and another 11 would have been deficient if America updates its reference range. You know, someone needs to sue those bastards, hit him in the wallet. That's the only way you'll get him to change.
You know, that may be why they're scared of you right now. They're worried that you could go back to all those old patients who weren't tested, worried about medical negligence.
B12 deficiency should be a never event. It's like operating on the wrong leg. For God's sakes, it's preventable and treatable.
You're right. And there's another way to get at this, one you've already started.
Yeah, and what would that be?
Educate them, like you educated me.
How? I can't even say the words. What would you like me to do, play charades? Sounds like bzzz.
Okay, that's just in the hospital. But you've got your webpage, and maybe you ought to write a book.
Me write a book?
Yeah, you know, one of those things with pages and a cover.
He's right, Sally. I mean, it's fine to get mad It's better to get even.
Dinner's ready. Bye. Well?
I like him. You may have found yourself a keeper.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves.
You know what?
What?
I think it's time we had the talk.
The birds and bees talk? I think I'm a little too old for that.
Oh, the other talk. The one we've both been avoiding. The one I'm not too old for yet.
Oh, that talk. Do we have to?
Yes, we do.
It is. Are you sure you want to do this?
Get older? No, I'm sure I don't want to, but it beats the alternative. Come on, you teach the folks here. How bad could it be?
I know, but
I'm not living with my daughter forever. So, let's do it.
All right.
All right.
Does that hurt?
Yes.
This?
Ow. I got here as soon as I could. You doing okay?
I think he'll live. The doctor will be here any moment.
I don't need some doctor telling me what's wrong with me. I've got a dislocated shoulder. Did the same thing to my other shoulder playing football.
This is 2 or 3 times now you've taken a nasty fall.
4 times. I don't know what it is with me. I'm having trouble staying upright, even with that damn cane. You ask me, those floors out there are slanted.
Well, I teach yoga at Vitality Horizons, and the floors aren't slanted.
It's a great facility.
My dad's moving in next week, says he can't wait.
Yeah? Good luck to him. Place is a hellhole.
Oh?
Well, the food is tasteless, and those floors, off by about 10 degrees. Just like where I grew up.
What are you talking about?
Your grandpa used to say the same thing to me about our house back home. He'd fall all the time and then blame the floors. My ma teased him about being a secret drinker, but my dad was a teetotaler.
So there might be a genetic component. Make sure you mention that to the doctor.
It wasn't genetic.
How do you know?
'Cause it cleared up as soon as he started taking his red shots.
Red shots?
Thank you, Sally. I can take it from here.
Make sure you tell Dr. Moran what you just told me.
Ah, the Ted Bowman case.
What about it?
Have you been called as a witness?
Not as of yet.
But you wrote about it in your book.
No.
Oh. Why not?
Because my book isn't about how my hospital bungled its medical responsibilities and became a revolving door for readmits who got progressively worse in our care.
Then what is your book about?
I can't tell you that.
And why not?
Because I'd be breaking the contract I signed with you. You know, the words I'm not allowed to mention.
It's about vitamin B12?
So how's your dad settling in?
I think he's doing okay.
How are you doing?
I visit him 3 or 4 times a week.
Hey, you okay?
I'm just thinking about all those old people. I have this thing about old people.
You have a thing about old people?
I just always liked them. Ever since I was a kid, you know, they're just so nice and wise and gentle. And I would just sit there with my dad in the game room watching them get older, falling apart even at Vitality Horizons.
Some of it isn't even necessary. There's this one guy at Vitality.
He's fallen a number of times, ends up at the ER, family history of dizziness and falling, which gets this. Gets cured in the case of his father by something he calls red shots.
Red shots? No kidding.
No kidding.
Ready?
Ready.
Don't go too far away.
So, Dr. Stewart, as the examining physician, do you order B12 testing as is considered good medical practice?
Oh, that's what I do now.
How about suggesting to the patient that the red shot his father took was just a placebo? And in today's enlightened medical world, it's just taken by celebrities, quacks, and charlatans. Which is what Dr. Moran told him after his last fall. They're telling him he's got Parkinson's, without even ruling out B12 malabsorption.
Wow, I apologize for my profession. Hey, suppose we could secretly test him. Sneak into his room, grab some pee, and run like hell. No?
No, we couldn't do that. But I could.
Good? What?
I could give a little presentation to the staff.
Yeah, I guess you could.
I could even offer to test them.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, there's gonna be some legal issues involved, like informed consent and need for follow-up.
Just be voluntary. I'll just offer it as a public service. What do you think? Do you think I could pull it off?
Ooh, don't say pull it off. Not out here in a boat.
As the director here, I think that's a fantastic idea. We could have a bigger problem than I would have thought before listening to you, Sally.
In my 2 years as the dietitian here, your father is the only one I know who actually takes preventive B12.
Okay, let's do this. Why don't you give a presentation, and anyone who wants to can take the urine test. I have consent forms that they or their relatives can sign.
Perfect.
Quite a crowd you got here. Knock him dead, sweetie.
All right, everyone, we all know why we're here today. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest speaker, Nurse Sally Pacholok, who's gonna tell us about vitamin B12 and why it's important to all of us.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to start by thanking everyone for coming out to talk about a vitamin. Not the sexiest subject in the world, right? Well, I hope to change your mind. Peter? This man is a doctor who was told he had a rare, incurable neurodegenerative disease of no known cause. He was dying, demented, curled up in a ball with his sight and hearing impaired until finally another doctor tested his B12. And here he is, back at work after intensive therapy of B12 shots. As you can see, he recovered despite having been close to death. He'll have to use crutches for the rest of his life because he wasn't properly diagnosed before the disease demyelinated his nerves. This boy was misdiagnosed because his doctor did not recognize any of the signs and symptoms of B12 deficiency. Instead, a well-known pediatric neurologist told the parents that their son had a rare, incurable disease and that nothing could be done about it. Luckily, the parents researched the signs and symptoms on their own. The boy had almost non-existent B12. After B12 injections, here he is now. Now, I can give you example after example, but instead I'll just show you one. That's Peter over there operating the VCR. And that's Peter less than a year ago. After B12 therapy, Peter. When patients become B12 deficient, their cells stop being able to make new DNA, and their bodies start degenerating, aging. Now, as you just saw, it can happen to the very young, but it is most common in people over the age of 60. That's you people. Vitamin B12 is the hardest vitamin to absorb because of the way it is bound to animal protein. I personally stopped being able to absorb B12 from food when I was a teenager, so I know what it feels like. As we get older, our bodies produce less hydrochloric acid, which is vital in the process of extracting it. Now, how many people in this room have taken antacids before because you had heartburn? Well, those antacids also lower your body's ability to digest B12, and so do a lot of other drugs. Metformin, statins, chemotherapies, nitrous oxide, antibiotics, alcohol, birth control pills. Birth control probably isn't a problem for most of you in the room. But you might be taking a drug for erectile dysfunction. You should know that the urogenital nerves are definitely damaged by low B12. B12 deficiency can make you impotent, and it can also make you pee and poop in your pants. It is essential that you know the symptoms because studies have shown that many of the usual B12 blood tests, if given at all, aren't even accurate. Today, we're going to offer you a chance to take this test, this easy urinary MMA, and no test is perfect, but this one doesn't involve drawing blood. Now, I can go on, but I'm not going to test your patients any more than I already have. So, thank you.
Thanks, Sally. Fatigue, irritability, and brain fog can all be early signs of B12 deficiency. Let's not forget that. Now, if anybody would like to have their methylmalonic acid level tested, Sally has brought a kit for each of you. She can explain the procedure.
She fainted. But it's not her first fall. She trips over her toes.
Not true. People stub their toes all the time. Big deal.
When she's walking, she's starting to look spastic like Frankenstein. And mostly she has no energy, like chronic fatigue. She's in a terrible mood all the time.
I am not.
Emily.
He brought me here. He can do all the talking.
Honey, you are having mood problems. Headaches, too. And she's been complaining about a tingling in her fingers and toes and even her tongue. And she's having a hard time emptying her bladder and all kinds of things.
Such as?
Like a few weeks ago, we went on a camping trip and the whole time she was complaining about feeling ants under her skin.
I didn't say there were ants under my skin. I said it felt like there were ants under my skin. I get itchy and tingly. Jeez.
So, Emily, you've seen a lot of doctors. What do you think is going on?
There's nothing wrong with me, except maybe him.
Look how you pick and scratch and even cut yourself. How unhappy you are. It's not normal.
You're not normal. You're making me anxious. My heart is pounding, and you think it can be cured by a vitamin.
What are we talking about here?
Go ahead, tell her your stupid theory.
I was talking to a friend of ours who's a nurse who works here, and he told me about B12 deficiency. And he thinks Emily should be tested.
Feel free to laugh.
No, I think it's a good idea. Make sure to mention that to Dr. Dabrowski.
So, Emily, what brings you in?
How was your day? That good, huh?
I had a woman and her husband come in today, return visit. Wife is so symptomatic, but of course I can't say anything. But guess what? The husband brings it up.
Really?
Yes. Heard it from a nurse who works here. Wife is so symptomatic, she has a history of anxiety and stomach problems and migraines, and then he reads about how nitrous oxide and antacids and the pill and alcohol use can make it worse.
Maybe you read it on your website. How's that going, by the way?
Good, so far. It's only been up for a couple of weeks, but at least a few people are reading it.
How do you know that?
I can see the hits and they leave comments.
Ooh, what do they say?
I don't know. I'm still a website rookie. I'm getting better at it.
You are something else.
So you just want to click here,
Okay.
and then you can scroll down and see the comments.
Oh, wow. There's a lot of them.
There's 35 to be exact.
Cool. Thank you for this website, Sally. I'm a psychiatrist. I had to tell my sister's doctor that her psychosis was due to B12 deficiency. She's 73. They were about to lock her away in a nursing home to live with dementia patients. After B12 shots, she's fine.
There's another one from a doctor.
I'm a pediatrician, and I've seen countless patients with anxiety, ADD, and autism spectrum and seizures who were B12 deficient and improved with B12 therapy and folate. Wow, we're really getting the word out.
Cool, right? So, you want to keep reading, or you want to learn how to make a link?
Learn how to make a link.
So it's not a heart attack?
No. It's probably something new we call POTS. Postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. See, you've been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and type 2 diabetes.
Yes, and I'm feeling really spacey and I'm finding it really hard to breathe.
Fibromyalgia, POTS, COPD, I don't know what causes these things. No known cause. I'll give you a script for nerve pain. Your sugar looks fine. You must find it stressful being a diabetic. Have you ever heard of PTSD? I'll get you some names of counselors for that. And you should follow up with your primary care physician.
My primary care physician just died.
Well, I suggest you find another one. Nurse, will you finish that?
Oh, God, I am feeling so weak.
Look, I'm not supposed to be telling you about this, but you need B12 testing. Your pregnancies could have depleted your B12, and unfortunately, most prenatal vitamins have lots of folic acid and not much B12 at all. Low B12 could be the cause of all your miscarriages. And taking metformin in the PPI you're prescribed can block absorption, so not everyone can get the B12 they need from food. Find a place to get your blood work done, and I hope you will see if B12 shots help you. Check your vitamin D levels, too. What? Well, shots are better once there's nerve damage, but oral B12 may help with your symptoms. I'm not allowed to talk about this here.
Why aren't you allowed to talk about it here?
Recent policy.
That sounds like a stupid policy.
No argument from me.
What is all this? Okay. Present. Holy smokes! You did it!
I got fed up. Now I have to see if a publisher wants it.
Why wouldn't they want it? Look at this. You've got everything. You've got charts and graphs and tables. A silent crippler stalks millions of Americans, and you may be one of them. It's a great start. This crippler is a master of masquerade, striking different people in different ways. It afflicts one person with tremors, makes another psychotic. It can mimic Alzheimer's disease, multiple sclerosis, early Parkinson's, and it can cause developmental disabilities in children. Sally, this is great.
Really? Sounds better when you read it.
A 35-year-old man starts wetting himself. A baby walking at 10 months stops walking at a year. A ballet dancer who undergoes cosmetic surgery ends up in a wheelchair for life. What do they have in common? Not enough vitamin B12. Sally, this is so essential. And I love the tone that you've set here. And you put all of the documented cases right up front where they belong.
I know. I just feel like I'm plodding along. This took me 5 days to write.
You know what good old Lao Tzu said?
What?
He said, a journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yo, well, I bet Lao Tzu didn't write his own book. Probably had scribes or something write it for him. You really think it's good so far?
I think it's better than good. I think this is incredible. And you know what?
What?
I think you're gonna finish it. And I think you're gonna get it published.
What makes you think that?
Because you are indefatigable and very, very sexy.
Oh, yeah?
Oh, yeah.
Want to put your money where your mouth is?
Definitely.
He's how old?
16 months.
And no signs of walking.
No, he doesn't even crawl much now. Just sits there when I set him down.
And what's he eat?
I'm breastfeeding him.
That's it, breast milk.
He has trouble swallowing solid stuff.
Well, his tongue is swollen, so that might account for that. But that wouldn't account for the fact that he's not walking. But some children start later than others.
This is at least the third time she's been to the ER. Pale, vegetarian, breastfeeding mom. Pale, listless kid with feeding problems who's still not walking at 16 months. And Dr. Moran completely, totally oblivious to this. Some kids start walking later than others. And you know what else she says? The barium swallowing test suggests he may need an operation on his tongue. What? And I'm just standing there with my mouth clamped shut. I just really don't know what to do anymore. I really don't.
What's your alternative?
I don't know.
Find a new job?
No. If I quit, they win.
Any word yet on the book from the publisher?
Not yet. And let's be honest here, no one's going to pay me to write a book.
Sergeant. Ring a bell?
We have so many.
Sergeant? I remember her. She saw Dr. Dabrowski came in about a month ago with her husband.
That's right. He ordered a B12 test.
Yes, he did.
And let's see here. Her B12 measured at 134, which apparently is very low. Is that right?
Extremely low.
And according to this letter, which I have in my hand from Miss Sargent's lawyers, low B12 may account for her sudden onset psychosis?
Certainly could, yes. Did something happen to her?
She tried to kill herself with acetaminophen.
She okay?
No, she's not okay. She's critical with liver damage, which is why the lawyers are involved. And her lawyers are wondering why. If her B12 level was so low and her toxic homocysteine was dangerously high, why we didn't send the test results to a primary care doctor so that they could take the proper steps to treat her before she tried to kill herself.
Dr. Dabrowski and Joe handled it. I'm not allowed to touch it.
Oh. Joe?
Yes.
Did you send the test results to her doctors?
I think I did. I'd have to check. But if I can make a point, a very important point, my point is that B12 level tests are very low, have always been very low until very recently on our list of priorities. Dr. Dabrowski didn't even think it was important enough to follow up.
So you're saying that her primary care physicians may not have gotten her test results in a timely manner?
That's possible. I try to do first things first. It's a vitamin, for Pete's sake. We're in the ER. It's not life and death.
Says who?
Says Dr. Dabrowski. He said the woman was a typical drug seeker. Says everybody except maybe you.
Okay, hold. Well, in this case, perhaps everybody was wrong and Sally was right. At least Miss Sargent's lawyers seem to think so. They're preparing to file a malpractice lawsuit if the tests were not sent, which, according to her primary care physician, they weren't. Joe?
Do you want me to look at the records?
Please.
Now?
Now. Sally.
This is terrible.
Yes, it is. I already warned you, this is not an ER test. We don't want the liability. And now I suppose you're going to tell me Dr. Dabrowski ordered this test on his own.
I didn't say a word. In fact, it was the husband who requested it. He wanted it after his wife fainted. But obviously, Dr. Dabrowski must have been humoring him because he didn't take it very seriously.
Really?
He's a jerk. He sat on the results. Though I wonder why not one of her medical providers was alert to her signs and symptoms. Nerve and psych damage after nitrous oxide. Seriously, this shouldn't just be about Joe.
This is all your fault.
You guys didn't send them, did you?
No, we didn't send them. They're right here at the bottom of the pile where they belong. Do you have any idea how much trouble you've caused us?
Me?
Yeah, you. You and your stupid B12. You're the reason why we're getting sued. I'm gonna get your ass fired. This is not an ER test. This is not an ER test. And I'm telling you right now, I am not gonna be the one going down for this. Bullshit B12 level. It was just a coincidence. The woman was sick, and she's a drug seeker.
Shame on you, Joe. You'd self-medicate too if you felt like crap and no one was helping you. We should never assume it's a benign coincidence to mental illness or cognitive impairment or nerve damage. We need to look for it and treat it. And the sooner we get the word out, the less suffering there will be.
That's it.
To your book.
They're going to assign someone, like a real writer, to help get it ready for publication.
That's great.
And when I told them about you, they thought it might be a good idea to have a doctor as a co-author or something.
Me?
Yes, you. It'll add some weight, because I'm just a nurse.
Ms. Pacholok, about this book, we have an injunction.
An injunction?
It requires you to cease and desist any efforts to publish said book until we've had a chance to look at it and approve its contents.
You must be joking.
Oh, not at all. As I'm sure you're aware, this hospital and many others across the country are being sued over this B12 kerfuffle.
Kerfuffle? You've got bodies lying around. It's this simple. When someone has symptoms, if you haven't ruled it out, you haven't ruled it out.
Well, we feel we have to protect ourselves. I'm sure you understand.
No, as a matter of fact, I don't. What I do understand is that if you spend half the money it took to get this injunction on proper B12 testing and treatment, you wouldn't be getting sued. And you might want to send this to my publisher because I wouldn't know what to do with it.
A publisher? We thought it was being self-published.
Well, that's what I was told.
Oops.
So we go after the publisher, no big deal.
I'm sure my publisher would be delighted. Nothing better than an idiotic injunction to boost sales. And they were worried a book about a vitamin wouldn't sell.
I think maybe we need to take a second look at this.
Very well. Miss Pacholok, you may go now. Up. But you haven't heard the end of this.
You know, for once I'll have to agree with you. Stay tuned. Joe, have you met my husband?
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do. Please be seated.
Would you please state your name?
Sally Pacholok. Pacholok.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a nurse.
B12 deficiency is dangerous because you have a window of opportunity to treat it. And if you don't treat it, you're going to destroy the myelin. Okay, and sometimes there's no recovery. Like that's why these people are in wheelchairs or bedridden or die.
Causes neurologic disorders, psychiatric disorders, can cause people to fall and break their hips, can cause them to have dementia.
The doctor that misdiagnosed me was sued for malpractice. Yes, I won.
If someone has dementia and any test abnormality that raises the question of B12 deficiency, be it a low B12 level or an elevated level of homocysteine or an elevated level of methylmalonic acid, I believe that person should be treated intensively with parenteral B12. Failure to treat early and aggressively might lead to irreversible loss of mental function.
I don't remember the point that I stopped remembering things. My neurologist said, why don't you just call hospice and make him as comfortable as possible? I remember having panic attacks. I remember my friend standing by me. I yelled at him, why don't you just let me die? And he drove me to Shands Hospital in Gainesville, Florida, where I was correctly diagnosed with a vitamin B12 deficiency. My doctor never did the vitamin assay. I have since weaned myself off the wheelchair, and I am the most stable on forearm crutches.
I could be like happy one second and like really mad for no apparent reason the next, or all of a sudden go mad and just start swearing.
It's well known for over 100 years that B12 deficiency causes psychiatric illness and depression.
I didn't want to do anything. I just sat there and slept.
Any patients with a vegetarian or vegan diet or who don't eat a lot of red meat should be checked. I think any patients who complain of fatigue, paresthesias, numbness, tingling, any problems with balance, memory issues.
I feel stupid. I can't study. I can't concentrate. I have the attention span of a 2-year-old.
Proton pump inhibitors, Prilosec, Prevacid, Nexium, and physicians are prescribing that like candy to them.
People who were on the proton pump inhibitors were more likely to be deficient in B12 than the people who were not.
It can cause cardiovascular disease, cerebrovascular disease, so it's not a placebo.
My chin is going back and forth. And I'm thinking, that's kind of strange. By the time I left for work, it was in my voice, and my chest was just pounding. Doctor came in, and what he said to me was, Tori, what I think you have is you're having an anxiety attack, and I am gonna give you something to calm you down. And I said, an Ativan. I'm not having an anxiety attack. I had already shared with him the information that my vitamin B12 level was at 74. And he says to me, what you have is post-traumatic stress disorder. And this is after spending less than 4 minutes with me.
And I've seen a couple patients in the ER that had postpartum psychosis, and they were both B12 deficient.
That's well known. I mean, depression, psychosis, they should always be checked for B12.
One of them had thoughts about wanting to kill her baby, and so we tested her and she was positive. So I treated her in the ER.
There is not enough B12 in a prenatal vitamin to prevent a B12 deficiency. And there are many reasons a young woman can have a B12 deficiency. Mothers who are pregnant, like say they've been a vegetarian for 10, 15 years and they get pregnant, and then their breast milk doesn't have enough B12, those children can become severely B12 deficient and they can have a brain injury.
He would sit around and pull his fingers and do his lips, and we kept bringing it up to the pediatrician, and I think his response at that time was, well, he's not doing it now.
We trusted him. He was the head of pediatrics at a major hospital. He said nobody gets a B12 deficiency. We'd known him for 20 years, so he was fully aware that we were vegetarians as well as our OBGYN. I took Centrum and I took folic acid and iron during my pregnancy. But that's, he told me that was fine for me to take. We wish so badly that we would have, even at 12 months, just left our pediatrician. He had all the classic symptoms, pale skin, pale lips, weakness, floppy muscles. If Lennon hadn't gotten the B12 shots, I know he would have died. He was going down really fast.
This child had classic signs and symptoms of B12 deficiency, yet nobody tested him. 3 physicians failed.
All of a sudden my legs went jelly and I literally fell to the ground and I couldn't get up.
They tried to say it was MS. They thought at first he had Wilson's disease. They knew it was something to do with the liver because the liver testing came back that wasn't normal. Like he was close to death because I was told that stuff was shutting down on him.
I didn't used to have back pain, but now I do. It's getting old.
Degeneration of the spinal cord. It's a form of B12 deficiency where it was left too long, so it's got a lot of nerve damage.
I can't use my hands at all. I can't run. It's actually very, very surprising on one little thing could mess up your whole life.
I can only assume that it happens much more commonly than we would have ever imagined.
What I see is a kind of indifference and sometimes an attitude of condescending indulgence. Oh, there he goes on about B12 again.
It's a knowledge deficit. I don't think they understand the disease. I think the name pernicious anemia is causing problems because they're looking for a severe deadly anemia, and many people don't get the anemia. You're not going to get macrocytic, the enlarged red blood cells, because we have enough folic acid.
Folic acid supplementation may be delaying the recognition in B12 deficiency by correcting the abnormalities in the blood without affecting the neurologic abnormalities. Individuals with low B12 and high folate levels had more neurocognitive deficits than the individuals with low B12 without high folate.
The B vitamins work synergistically together, especially B6, folic acid, and B12. They kind of went on this big campaign with folic acid, and they just thought that's the only thing with neural tube defects, but they forgot the B12, which to me never made sense because B12 is specific for the myelin that surrounds the brain and the spinal cord.
Well, let me simply say you can't live without it. The vitamin B12 deficiency, if left untreated, results in death.